Welcome to Art Nomad, a podcast that wanders the world of art, creativity, and culture. Here, we dive into the minds of creatives in an effort to rock their role and make strides as they stroll. I'm your host, Eric, and this week's theme is alt. My guest is artist Jay Indigo. When I look at his body of work, I see someone that loves to spend a lot of time in different worlds. For one, he loves to draw the aliens that inhabited this world before humans were here. He's a musician and a videographer, and that work is quite psychedelic and dreamy. And he's also an astro traveler. I had to look that one up. It basically means he has out-of-body experiences, so we'll get into that. And he's a member of the Afro-Surrealist group of artists that love to dive deep under the skin of contemporary culture. Now, before we jump into that great interview with Jay Indigo, I want to tell you a story. And this is the story of the caged man. Now, who was this caged man? Well, his name was Adolf Wolfli, and he was born in Switzerland in 1864. And his childhood was basically a living disaster. His father was an alcoholic. He left the family when Adolf was 5 and died a year later. And that forced his mom, who had 7 children, to give up Adolf because she couldn't feed everyone. So she contracted him to a local farm. And the idea was that he would get room and board for work. However, he was beaten and overworked. He wasn't fed well, and he got 0 money, and he got 0 education. He was taken completely advantage of. It was always his hope that his mom would get to take him back when she got on her feet. However, when he turned 8, she also died. And he was without family and without hope. He basically became a child slave to Swiss farmers. Now, you can imagine that when he became an adult, he was not equipped to survive in that environment. He gave it a go. He held down some jobs. He tried to make it work with society, but he was very violent. He had several run-ins with the law, and eventually he was put into an insane asylum. He was committed when he was 31 and locked into a cage. He did not like this. He fought the staff. He broke his own furniture in his room, cage, whatever you call it. He was very unhappy. And then at one point, someone on the staff decided to give him some paper and pencils. They were a little worried about what would happen with the pencils, but they did it anyway. And it was life-changing for him and for the staff. He became focused. He became dedicated and calm. And he basically channeled all that frustration and violence into the paper through the pencils. And he started working from sun up to sundown on drawing and writing. And what he was creating would eventually become a 25,000 page magnum opus. Those 25,000 pages were covered completely. He did not want to leave any white space on any piece of paper. He wasn't educated, but I feel like that dropped his filters and he was able to create without expectation. And he had poetry. He made up words. He made up musical language. He just created and created, and that world allowed him to completely rewrite his life. He did. It was the magnum opus was 5 volumes. In that first volume, he addressed the story of his childhood, and there was no enslaved orphan. Instead, he was this world traveler that explored jungles and cataloged talking plants, and he had conversations with foreign kings and dignitaries. My favorite part is he declared Australia the habitat of the giant strawberry. And my wife's Australian, and she's a beautiful strawberry. So I love that. It's just wild. I mean, he basically replaced his caged walls with an entire universe of his own creation. And I feel like that helped him quite a bit. At age 66, he died in his caged room. But while he was in that cage for 35 years, I do feel that he died happy. And I feel like he was able to do that because his mind, it refused to be imprisoned and it set him free. So I enjoy the story. I tell it because I think there's a moral there. And that moral is that we can all shape our own reality with creativity, and it's quite powerful. And we all have our issues that we deal with, but if we apply creativity in the right way, we'll be able to manage quite well. So hats off to Adolf Wolfli. Share the story if you can. And now let's jump into our interview with Jay Indigo. Jay Indigo, welcome to Art Nomad. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you for having me. Really
It's
glad
good to
be
have
here.
you. The theme for this podcast is alt. I picked it because when I looked at your work, I was actually thinking of a couple themes like underground or parallel. And then I thought of alternative and alt. And I'm like, that's it, because you seem to spend most of your time in these different worlds trying to find something underneath the mainstream cultures that we have going on. And I feel like when I look at your artwork, or I understand what you're interested in, yeah, it's something other than what that mainstream is. For example, you draw aliens that have been around longer than us humans, and you have a whole story and a whole world around that called the Mad Ones. You've practiced astral traveling, or you're an astral traveler, which we might talk about a little later. And you've had these out of body experiences that you've explored. And then also you're an Afro-Surrealist, which in itself explores that alternative way of looking at current culture. So because of all those reasons, I feel like you are deeply into the alt, and you're always looking at things in different ways. And I'm just curious, how does that continual shift into the alt affect your artwork?
Yeah, I think when it comes to alt and alternative art, it definitely feels like something that like it wasn't like a decision that I made like consciously. I think just between like nature and nurture, or just like how my family sort of like molded me. Especially on my father's side, I was always sort of challenging the norm. They always wanted me to like question reality, question the things around me, and also to like what I liked and not have to worry about what other people said about it, honestly. So that's one of the main things that I feel like my alternative art self or like creations sort of stem from, just like the idea of um creating from an honest place. And if it's a little bit off the beaten path, then so be it.
On the Afro-Surrealism front, it's a very, very important form of art that's going on right now, especially in this time when I feel like our culture is dominated by pop, or maybe it feels like sometimes that's the only culture we have. It's very shallow, and people kind of get lost in their screens digesting it in a kind of a very superficial way that feels like decoration. But not Afro-Surrealism like that. Like there's a deep and meaningful topic that's being addressed with the artwork across the board. And I'm just curious, from your point of view, for when you are doing your work, is there something you're trying to say?
Yeah, definitely. The main thing is to be able to sort of take someone with you on this path, right? So like it's there's the immediate after surrealist like sort of reality of creation where you're taking sort of like as a black person, this sort of already kind of absurd reality kind of like you live in within like America, in your context as like, like a black kid just trying to like grow up or whatever, right? And then you're sort of given these sort of like
Mm.
parameters and the ways that you're supposed to interact with the world. Otherwise, there are certain doors or I guess resources that, take a little bit more time to get access to or whatnot. Um, so like the Afro Surrealist door sort of opens up your ability to sort of reach beyond your current reality. The ability to sort of like, this is where I'm at right now, but I see myself like over there, or see myself doing this over here on this other side. So me always being, like the sort of alt person, I've always had like the sort of chasing the dragon mentality of like, yo, like what if I can do this and just do this? And within that, I always kind of felt like, just due to like the environments I kind of grew up in and like the people I was surrounded, sometimes it did feel like lonesome, to be honest. There are times where because you're you're 14, you're 15, and you kind of have like these wacky thoughts. You kind of have like these alternative ways of thinking in terms of like the way you navigate the world. That like sometimes people are not trying to hear the wacky ideas, or like they can't even understand like where I'm coming from. So well, with my art in particular, whether it's the music, the visuals, the mad ones, it's supposed to be like, take my hand, we'll go here for a little bit. You can see what I'm talking about. You can see like the worlds that I'm trying to visit, and then we can go explore that, and then we can come back, we
Hmm.
can have a conversation about it. So it's sort of like this idea of like going to somewhere else and then bringing it back. It's like you could have this fantastical thought, but then we can also bring it back and have like this sort of groundedness and like at least have like a conversation about it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I guess that's where the surrealism comes from, but I love that idea that it's so grounded in the now. There was a theorist named Terry Francis, and she said that Afro-Surrealism is art with skin on it. And I always thought that was really a really nice way to say it, right? It's art, but but like it could be fantasy and it's
Yeah,
surreal,
yeah,
but it's got
yeah.
skin on it. Like, and that's why
That's a
I'm
great
just like, I
quote.
love it. And it's so
That's a great
important.
quote. Wow.
Yeah, I love that. If you look at someone like Donald
Right.
Glover or Childish Gambino, if you look at Kendrick Lamar, like what they've been able to do with Afro Surrealism and their music and their videos, it gives a much bigger
Right.
audience to the work, and it has a much larger impact to it. And I'm curious your thoughts because I think currently you're doing more video and music, and is it a goal for you to take your message to a larger audience outside of the quote museum and gallery?
For sure. Yeah, nah, definitely. I do have like pretty big ambitious goals in terms of like binding all the different mediums and medias together to like create this sort of like larger than life, sort of really large scale, multiple moving parts. A part of me that also like knows like I have to take my time with it because if I want to do it justice, I have to just make sure like everything is good. But I'm also in a really good headspace where like something kind of clicked, an authentic part of myself. So I'm just trying to make sure that like as long as I'm being honest with the art, then it's part of that universe, and it's going to exist in like a real part of me. You know what I mean? And in the art as well.
I mean, I do see a lot of parallels with you and Donald Glover and the and sort of the world building
Yeah, yeah.
and and this idea of creating like that alternate reality to step into and to say something within that other world.
Right.
So it's a very always very layered. Yeah, so that's great. When you were studying, you studied something called new media,
Yeah.
and when I studied, there was no such thing as new media, and I was wondering if you could tell me, A, what did that entail, and B, how did it inform your work?
Yeah, yeah. So new media, basically it was like a new major that had been introduced while I was at college, like right after COVID. Or I think I'm tripping. I think it came out while COVID was still a thing. But either way, it had multiple tracks basically. I had graphic design, I had like film art, I had sound design, I had like art coding. I actually didn't even end up finishing the track for new media because I this is like a sort of like this when like the music started getting kind of serious. Um, like we
Mm.
we were working on so much. Like I ended up like living with like a bunch of people who I'm still like really close to this day. We're actually part of a collective, and like we all live together in like this apartment. So we ended up just working on like a lot of art like day in day out, and like it got to a point where it like I wasn't good at managing my time well, so I just I ended up frying myself. But to be honest with you, that being said, the new media definitely introduced me to like a lot of different things that I wasn't privy to beforehand.
So when you were with the collective and you were doing so much, which that sounds actually
Yeah, like
amazing. It sounds like school. I mean, it sounds better than school. But if you're like with a group of people and you're creating so much stuff, was that all taking place during COVID, pre-COVID, after COVID? When was that happening?
yeah, it got really to this day like I don't know if it's like those are the moments where like I don't know if there's like a divine like pathing or like just like luck or like luck of the draw. But like literally we all met within like the first week of school and just walking to like play basketball at the gym, and then we ended up being like, oh, you do that, you do this, you do this, you do this. Like let's just hang out. And we kept hanging out until COVID happened. We started making songs together, like via Zoom, and also like couple of us like lived close enough together where we could like meet up
Yeah.
here and there. So that happened, and then by the time we came back from COVID, we were still in school. We were juniors at that point. We ended up moving into one giant like sort of apartment together, and like it was like we had like three people upstairs, three people downstairs, and we all made music and made art, and like it was like a gift from heaven. Like I literally like to this day, like I and like it became like our sort of like sanctuary, like Babylon sort of thing. So like we would wake up, we'll go to each other's room, be like, what do you want to do today? Like you want to draw, you want to make art, you want to make a song, you want to, you know what I mean? And
Make a
we'll just do
film. Let's
that.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, literally. Like we had like people who were only like photographers and videographers. We had people who only drew, people who only like made beats, people who were like actual rappers and R&B artists and stuff like that. So we would just like come through and just like wake up, just do art, get food, maybe
Yeah.
chill for a little bit, like watch a movie together, like watch a TV series, watch some random ass movie on like a projector in our room, and then we'll go back to each other's room, record for like 3 hours, and like it would just do that day in and day out. It was like our training ground, sort of like where you could put like your 10,000 hours, and it was like a dream come true, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I think to me, that's more, you learn more there than in school,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's really great. And are you still in contact with that group of people? Is the collective
Yeah, yeah,
going
yeah.
or like yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So our collective is called BFMG, stands for Babyface Music Group. We finalized like the actual like before, because like people are like, "Oh, are you guys a group?" Like, and we're like, "Nah, we're just friends who make art together." And we're we're
Mm,
just like super cool about it. And then eventually we were like, "Yo, like maybe we should try, like see where this
yeah.
goes." So we're still like going strong. We actually just like a group of us just came back from Japan not too long ago. Like it was a blessing to even go there. One of our friends is like a DJ. He got booked out there as well, so he was over there for a little
That's
bit.
great.
So we went to go support him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you think it's easier or harder to be a young artist in today's world versus, say, a generation or two generations ago?
If you don't have no backing and like you're someone who's like sort of like how we were like in like a bedroom just trying to like get your ideas out, I think it is a little bit more difficult because though you have all the tools and requirements to do the art you want to make, if you're not trying to like play the game, I think it's a lot
Mm,
more difficult. I think it's a lot more difficult because if you want, I guess, to like at least earn a living wage off of your art, what's required of you in a sense is like low key pretty taxing on an artist who doesn't care about that. I think it's pretty taxing. If you're someone who like is willing to play the game and you don't mind having to become like an influencer or become like this person who have to like market and to like have your art be like a commerce versus like an actual like I guess like livable like living thing, it can be easier. But even in that sense, if you're talking about like longevity, I think it still might be a little bit more difficult.
yeah. So that's interesting 'cause I thought for sure you'd be, especially after your story with your friends, like making art together. To me today, accessibility, like if you want to go make a film, you make a film. And if you want to go make music, you can, it's easy,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like, it used to be harder. It used to be harder to go make that, but you can, like, we can all do that
Yeah,
now
yeah,
with the
yeah, for sure.
technology. And then also we all have like a platform to put it on, I guess, limitless
Right.
accessibility to, to what we want to do. But your point's really good is that it's like, okay, great. Like there's there's a lot that can be made and it's easy to get it out there, but then there's this whole
Right.
other
Yeah,
side
yeah,
to
yeah.
it. I guess also everyone's out there, right? So it's a very crowded
Yeah,
space
yeah.
now. And like you said, you got to play the game, but is being an artist meaning, does that mean you have to be an influencer? And like a lot of artists don't want to be influencers.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
marketers, right? You have some more,
Right. Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
market
like
your stuff too.
it's ridiculous. When I first like decided like, okay, like I'm gonna start putting my stuff out there. I'm gonna start like actually like, trying to like get the mad ones into like the ethos of like the world or whatnot, or like the music and all this. Like I'd have my friends and people who like they're like, yo, how come you're not doing this? You should hop on this trend, do this. Like, don't you want yourself to be in front of everyone? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not trying to pimp my music out like you know what I mean? Like this is like a very like a personal thing to me. Like I'm not trying to just like throw it out into just anywhere,
Mm,
just to like, I don't know, like have it be like this super catchy viral thing. I want people who care enough to like deeply interpret the music or the art to like find it and like take the time with it. The number one reason why I think it's a little bit more difficult, there's so much stuff and like that's being pushed, which is a beautiful thing, like that everyone has access. But the vehicles that are used to like access those things doesn't promote actual like a digestibility of the things that we're trying to do, like the algorithms and you know these app like the social media apps like Instagram, Twitter. Like people don't TikTok. Like people don't really sit down and like digest what they're seeing. They see if it doesn't like pique their interest or like boost their dopamine receptors in the first like 10 seconds, then it's the next thing immediately, you know?
right.
So like it's hard to find the line between like you wanting to create for yourself, but then also like also wanting it to be appreciated in some sense. There's also like the reality of like the ego of artists too. Like they're artists are pretty fragile in terms of how sensitive they are to their art, you
Mm,
know. So there is a part of it where you know there are people who I meet who like they make art and it's only for themselves. They don't care about releasing it, and that to me is beautiful in and of itself because now you have the resources to, and you don't have to worry about playing the game. But then there are people who are like, yo, like I love art so much, I only want to do art, and I want to be able to make a living off my art, but I don't necessarily want to have to, you know, go wake up and like put a phone up and like record myself like, making the painting and then you know what I mean like that's
right.
like a little bit that part of the art should be that's for me like me making it sacred after I'm done with it you guys can have it but like it feels the lines get blurred a little bit
You're
which
not
is
going to let
interesting.
them into the process. Yeah, that's a personal choice. I feel like too, a lot of artists, they feel like if I play the game and I get to a certain point, I can stop playing the game and do what I want to do. You know,
That is true too,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
hook. But then, then that's
That's
the
and
hook.
then you get roped then you get
And
roped into the
that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
hook. I mean,
yeah,
I know it is a tough thing
yeah. I mean
to navigate.
it does happen. I mean, it's possible for like someone like Kendrick Lamar. Like he doesn't necessarily have to play the game anymore if he doesn't want to. He can. He's like notorious for like dropping an album, disappearing into the ethos. Like no one knows where he's at, what he's doing anymore. You know, like
Right.
he can drop whenever he wants to. He could just drop a song in the middle of like on a Wednesday at you know what I mean 6 p.m. and people are gonna tune in no matter what. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like
Right.
there are ways you can do that, but then to your point, like that was like he was able to get there in a whole different vehicle than what artists now have to sort of like navigate. It's something that me and my friends talk about a lot, like wanting the visibility, I guess, as an artist, but then also like not wanting to necessarily like have to like do like wear every single hat at the same time. Like it at least had like an immense burnout. I do
Yeah.
think that like it's on its way out though. I feel like in the next couple of years it's probably gonna be like a little shift. That's
Away from like the social media
yeah, for sure.
demand to sort of survive through social media. Yeah. I hope it shifts. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
because you're forced to be a performance artist, but not everyone's a performance artist. And here
Right.
you are performing with your art. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
but I don't want it. I just want it to speak for itself. Like
Yeah.
if you put up a still picture of your art and that's it. I mean, that's what people see in museums, right? Like
Right.
just put it up. That like that doesn't float. If you look at the algorithm, like a single still with no words,
Right.
exactly how it appears in a gallery, that doesn't float. You got to like dance and you got to like
Yeah.
show the making, like you were saying, like show the making of and like the behind the scenes
Yeah,
and
yeah,
put
yeah.
up some flashy titles, and then suddenly
Yeah.
like it's just so
Yeah.
it's a yeah
And
it's a tough thing to balance.
it's like and you can argue like that through every single era of music or like art, there is a level of like the game you have to play. Like there in every single
Mm,
era there is a game. So like maybe just in this era particularly, this is the game that you have to play, and then whatever next era there is, there's gonna be another rendition of that. So like
right.
there is
Yeah.
like
I mean,
there is like talks of people who are just like, yo, like if you really want to be this person, then like the people who, you know, like in the 80s or in the 90s where like they had a record deal and they didn't want to release an album, but they had forced to release an album, or like they didn't want to do this press run and they're forced to do the press run anyway. And they're sort of still that, you know what I mean, or didn't want to be on this radio show and they had to go to the radio show.
right.
So like there's still
Yeah.
like a level of it. I mean that's more music centric, but But like I think the point
Yeah,
is
I mean, I guess it's the way the world's going, and it shifts the demands
right.
for what has to happen. I think everyone's just trying to work their way through it
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Yeah.
We have reached our first break. You know what that means?
Nice.
That means that I'm gonna give you a break, and I'm gonna just read a little. So actually, this I don't read much in this one because this podcast or this portion of the podcast is sponsored by a memory, and the memory is actually one of my first encounters with the Alt key on the
Oh
computer,
shoot.
and it actually it goes with a couple other keys. So it's the Control Alt Delete keys. And when I was young, my dad, we had a computer at home, and so he discovered Control Alt Delete, and he showed me. He's like, Eric, you only use this if you have to, because it's going to wipe out whatever you've worked on. Like if you're not patient and you use it too quickly, you might lose some stuff. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So then I went to school and I told my friend, and then we told another friend, and then before you know it, like a group of us were talking, and we hatched this plan at school. And sure enough, the moment our teacher left the classroom, we're like, okay, that's it. Everyone hit Control Alt Delete, and
Oh,
there was like 18 computers or so, 20. I
oh
don't know. There was like a good amount
shoot.
of computers, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
some kids
yeah.
were like, "What? Hit what?" Like hit Control Alt Delete at the same time, and we did it. And I don't know how long the teacher was gone, maybe 30 seconds or a minute or something. But when they came back, like all the computer screens were in the process of being rebooted. He didn't know what to think. And like, was there a power outage or what?
Yo,
But it was Mr. Berman, and Mr. Berman was not happy at all. And
yo,
basically we couldn't use computers for a whole month after that because he was like, "You're not touching these things," as punishment. So
yo.
we had to handwrite everything. But
What?
but back then, to me, that like computers are pretty new, so.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
well, we still handwrite things
Yeah, yeah,
anyway. But
yeah.
anyway, it was a very funny story.
That's hilarious.
All right, let's jump into another segment. I call this
Peace.
audio alchemy, and it's where we
Huh.
talk about audio. Of course, you do a lot of audio. We've already started to talk about some audio, but I also switch hats for this one. You're gonna like this
All
hat.
right. Nice. Now we're talking.
I thought you'd like this.
Now we're talking. Getting down to business.
All right. So we're jumping into audio alchemy now, and you make a lot of music. Obviously, we've discussed that, and when we talked about alternative artists that influenced you, you mentioned MF Doom and Madlib, and I'm wondering if
Huh.
you could just talk a little bit more about their collaboration or them independently and how they influenced you.
Yeah, man, I don't even know where to begin. Like, obviously, like these two dudes are like grandfathers for a whole style of like hip hop that at least I hold really like near and dear to my heart. And it's funny because I like stumbled upon like Doom stuff very, very like randomly. I think it's on YouTube. Like I was after school. It was like after school one day. Probably should have been doing homework or something, but I was on YouTube just like looking online and like this dude, I think it was like lyricology or something like that. He was like doing like a breakdown of like Accordion by MF Doom. It was the first
Hmm.
time I heard of it. I was probably like I was probably in high school, like early high school, and like yeah, I hear the beat for Accordion. He's like kind of breaking down the lyrics, and he's sort of like giving you the sort of like breakdown of like Doom as a character, like
Hmm.
what he means, and like the double meaning in his lyrics, and I'm like, wait, like you can do this? A surrealist sort of approach to like how you want to like rap about, what I mean, your life. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. So I
Hmm.
obviously like I have to like go listen to it, and like obviously Mad Villainy is a classic album. Like that's like a through and through like an amazing album. And like the rest of his albums, like Food, like the ability to sort of make songs out of just like random pieces of food and like make them sort of and have and like tell stories. And I'm like, this is like a
That's
whole,
abstract.
yeah, super
That's great.
abstract, right? Like and like his character being like this villain who can control the minds of all the world leaders, and like three-headed dragons from other planets taking over, and they all weave into like this narrative. He has a brother who has a separate album Victor. I'm like, yo, this is like incredible. Like you can like find like these sort of like crazy nuggets, and then you go to like people and you're like, yo, like, have you guys heard this? And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm not trying to hear
Mm.
this dude rap about
Dragons.
yeah, dragons and like
Food.
I'm not trying to hear about that. I'm trying to hear like I'm trying to dance. Like I'm trying to go crazy. And like, but yeah, it was one of those things that like it really intrigued me because I didn't know that like something like that was even possible. And then like the skill level on top of that, and then Madlib's beats and like how textured they are, and like how much like they would use like these recordings for like movies and TV shows, and like they'll and like introduce them into the actual music to like carry the narrative throughout the songs and keep the album cohesive. And I'm just like, dang, like there's a lot of there's a lot more to like this world of music and just like audio art than like I thought was possible. Even with Madlib's, I guess like his approach to making beats was like I always thought that like you needed like a lot of crazy equipment, like a bunch of like you needed like a MIDI keyboard, you need like a drum machine, you needed, you know, like 3, 4 patches to like make beats. And like I found out he's making beats on a free app that my phone has, like or like an iPad. And I'm like, wait, like he's
That's great.
making some of these best beats I've ever heard in my life off like a free app. Like this is I'm like, okay, like so this is possible. Like you can make this happen for real. Like so that
Right.
like sort of gave me a lot of inspiration during that time.
Yeah. It's funny, because MF Doom isn't that he's not necessarily a household name, but I read something that was interesting. It said, MF Doom is your favorite rapper's favorite rapper.
Yeah.
I'm
Facts.
like that. I'm like,
Facts.
that is so true.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's got respect from rappers, and like
Yeah, yeah.
that says a lot about.
Yeah.
And and Madlib is just he's the guy's incredible. Like I don't know how he comes up with all those great. He just samples from
And
everything, from everywhere, and like it's just he's known for his crate digging, like
yeah.
all over the world. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, it's a good they're a good duo. My choice to talk about um kind of alternative music was going to be Aphex Twin, but when you
Yeah.
brought up MF Doom and Madlib, I was like, well, maybe I should like stick in that genre. And
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
remember being totally blown away by Cool Keith,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think he actually influenced those guys
For sure.
in some way. He had like 58 alter egos, like his like
Yeah,
in his
yeah.
music, like that guy went off though, like he went off like he had one that was Black Elvis, which I thought, I mean, he comes up with
That's
the greatest
crazy.
names too,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
like
have to have
Dr.
fun with it.
Octagon.
You have to have fun with it. You just have to like just go all the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
But
like
that the Dr. Octagon, his that was probably my favorite. I mean, I don't know. I don't know all of his. I know some of them, but like
50 is
when I
crazy.
listened to Dr. Octagon, I was like, that is next level.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
reminds me a lot of MF Doom
Yeah,
and Madlib.
I
So.
didn't know there was 50 different alter egos. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I
That's like intense. That's
know.
a whole different level. I have to tap in though.
Talking about alt,
Yeah, yeah, right.
shifting gears. Let me swap my hats again. All right. Gotta save that only for the audio alchemy.
Right.
Um,
Sacred.
all right. I want to know what worries you as an artist today.
What does worry me is a world where the art doesn't hold the same weight that it held before. Like I don't want it to become a thing that like people sort of lose due to like and like a techno-feudalist sort of society. This thing where like you can only own art on a subscription or like a cloud, and no one really cares about the physical, tangible medium that it should hold, sort of like whether that's like the first time you know like there are certain things like the first time you heard a song, like with the CD that when you bought a CD, you put it into the car and like you hear it for the first time, and like you know you're like, wow, like this is an amazing album, and like it changes like the way your brain chemistry works, and like sort of like that being lost with like how everything is sort of like subscription based. The idea that like you can kind of lose access to your art very, very
Mm,
quickly. You have to just like more or less be aware of. Um, in that sense,
mm,
because yeah, yeah, like Spotify too. They train AI through your music. You don't get like they hire like fake artist accounts to create art basically to like up their revenue count. to like make sure they hit the bottom line. Like there's a whole like rabbit hole I went through learning about this, and I'm just like, dang, like this thing that like was sort of advertised as like this sort of like saving grace for creators on a musical front isn't as great as it seems to be, you know. So it's just one of those things where like you have to kind of be careful of where you're putting your art, which is like the only thing I'm like actually where like I have to like think about constantly.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it's a very complicated topic
Yeah.
because I mean, there's more and more of these feudalist states where you have like the king and then you have this pyramid and then at the bottom are those of us that just rent little spaces in the cloud world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's complicated, but for me there's also this idea that we don't like it's hard for you and I to own something. We have to rent
Yeah.
our space here for music, and we have to rent our space here for visuals or for our videos or movies.
Right.
And you're kind of just renting these little areas, and it's like I want to own something. I want something to be mine. Like I want to own that
Right.
CD and like have the
Yeah,
artwork and
exactly.
make notes on it and like
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, like I was saying earlier, I'll say this quickly, like I do think that there is gonna be a little bit of like a renaissance that's gonna start happening within the next couple of years. Because the more people I talk
Hmm.
to, they're kind of sick of like people are in, like they're like, oh yeah, I'm like I'll be like, oh, are you on Instagram or whatever? They're like, nah, I actually just deactivated my account. Like I'm kind of done with using Instagram now. Like they're like sort of people are like sort of returning to like I want to be outside. I want to meet people in real life. I want to be able to like interact because as of right now, like you can't even trust what you're seeing on the device at this point. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just seeing something that could be completely made
Right.
up, especially like New York too, which is like a pretty like lucky environment to be in. Like there are a lot of people who want to get back to like community and get back to like just like what it means to just be a creator and a human just generally. So like there are people who I know who like they'll find a space that they can rent out and then it becomes like a third place sort of thing where you can it's like a sliding you could donate how much ever money you want or something you go into the location and that's there for you to like sometimes I have events where it's like open mic. Sometimes I have events where like it'll just be like
Hmm.
you work on collage art. Sometimes you just go in, you just want to chill, just hang out, talk to people, like one of those type of things. So like those are like I've been seeing those a lot more recently,
Interesting. Yeah, like
which is
real
really dope.
engagements with real people.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was struggling a little bit to like say I'm worried because I think that like if I think people were sort of like beginning to realize that yo like we low key need each other more so than ever. So like we low key need to like get back to what it means to
Mm.
like what we're actually here for, you know?
Yeah. All right. Let's change gears a little bit. I'm very curious about your astral projection and
Yeah.
your out of body experience
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you've
yeah.
experimented with. And I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about what those are and what they did for you, and if they helped you in some way with your creativity.
This also goes back to like the high school thing, going through it, depression, all this, whatever. There's a group called Pro Era, they're from New York, and they all talked about like, consciousness, super consciousness, indigoism, spirituality, things of that nature. There are dudes around my age now, like they're like in their early 20s who are just like artists, and it really moved me. I was like 14, 15 at the time, and they really urged like people to like meditate. It's just like a lot of metaphysical talk, like your chakras, your spirit, like just everything that encompasses mindfulness and like spirituality.
So what is the out of body experience?
So the outer body experience, or like I guess like they call it astral projection. I'm not sure if I was able to fully astral project like completely, but I definitely had a couple of like outer body, third person looking down on myself moments. The way that for me it happened was I was meditating one day and like the only way I could describe it is sort of like I'm like rising sort of like through like the back of like my neck and then like there's like a not a full popping sensation, but like something that's sort of akin to that and like not, then you're like sort of just like in like a weightlessness. And for me, like if I'm being honest with you, it kind of freaked me out because I was 14, 15. Like
Right.
I don't think I had any business doing that at that at that age, to be honest with you. So like when I realized what was happening, I kind of like freaked out and like sort of snack back in. And then after, yeah, so like that was like the outer body experience. And then after that, started like lucid dreaming. That started freaking me out. I'm like, yo, I can control my dreams. Like this is crazy. And no one told me about this. So I'm like, yo, like this is like insane.
Was this later? The lucid dream, was that later, or was it you were still 14?
That was a little bit later. That was like in high school. I was like 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did the lucid dreaming help you with your creativity or your art in any way?
Oh, for sure. Ever since that moment, like when I had the first like OBE and then also lucid dreaming, I realized that like two things really happened to me. One thing was like people would be like, "Yo, like I would come at the exact time." They're like, "Yo, I just thought about you. How did you call me or like come to like this
Mm,
place at the same exact time?" I'm like, I don't know. And then two, I realized with the art too, I just sort of allowed things to come, and then I realized retroactively, like with the Mad Ones thing, like the Mad Ones were already a thing before I started doing meditation, and then I look at them again and I'm like, oh, this is what this means. Like there's something that I was like sort of like already trying to figure out, and now it became it had already like amalgamated into this, and I wasn't paying attention to it. You know what I mean? So it sort of like allowed me to sort of be a lot more open with my creative process and also like interpreting like what I was creating.
mm,
But yeah, that was
got it.
definitely something. It also like I want to say again, like it freaked me out. Like I was like, if you see me like at like post that, like I was like pretty frantic. Like I was like also like people talk to me and like they'd be like, "Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "I don't even know like what's going on. I have no clue what's happening anymore."
You're like,
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back
yeah. I have
later.
no clue what's happening right now.
Let me
Yeah,
digest this for a bit. Yeah. All right. I mean, that's a wild
I,
story. I
I
mean,
haven't.
I've never done any of that, but it's fascinating. I think it opens a lot of
Yeah,
things up.
yeah. I would suggest like if you have like free time at all, I know you have the little one running around and whatnot, but if there's ever a time, it's like the trick that I remember like learning was you have to imagine like a rope coming out of like your spine, and then imagine like your ribs or something like sort of grabbing onto that rope and like pulling itself out. It's like a whole weird sort of like thing. Yeah,
Sounds like
right,
fun.
right. You can see why I was
Totally.
tweaked out my mind afterwards, right?
Freaking out. Let's jump into another commercial break
Nice.
here. All right. This commercial break is an ad for No More Ads. That's right. No more ads. It's an alternative technology for zero more ads. Now, here's my esteemed colleague, Jay Indigo, to tell you more. Jay, over to you.
How many times have you been interrupted out of a super immersive conversation, a piece of media that you dearly hold close to your heart, and drawn out of it due to these annoying ads? Fear no more. We have the ad nullifier. Now, what the ad nullifier does is it takes the ads and it reconfigures the frequencies on a molecular level, and it changes them into your favorite jingle, or it could be a meditative sound, anything, but whatever you want, you just put the prompt in and it changes it completely fundamentally. So no more getting sold these things you do not want. No more these personalized ads targeting you. Now you can have a nice little jingle that accompanies you on your journey.
There you go. The technology for zero more ads. I love it. All right. That was great. And
No, yeah,
now back to our podcast. All right. This is one of my favorite parts of the podcast as we jump into another P in the podcast.
nice.
And it's called art. Art. This is where you and I create together
Hmm.
something. Um and I had this idea. I haven't told you what this is. Um, Here's the concept. You give me a word and I create a sentence with it. And then I give you a word and you create a sentence with it. Do you want to start with the word or the sentence?
I'll start with the sentence.
All
Challenging
right.
myself.
Ping pong.
The rate at which the ideas ping pong makes it hard for the artist to choose a path.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I would
Give me a word.
plant.
the plant within me grows over time as I am nourished by these podcasts and my guests.
That's dope. That's dope. That's real right there. That's super real.
Okay. Dollar bill.
Dollar bill. The dollar bill doesn't hold as much weight. A
True
little bit.
story. True story. All right. Give me a word.
Printer.
I showed my child a printer and they had no idea what it was. So I had to tell them what it was. And then they went, oh, paper. What's paper? Okay. Last one. Laughter.
Laughter is the one true thing that has always kept me at a balance in my life. It's super real.
I think laughter is important. I actually have something on my wall. The only dress code is laughter.
Yeah. Yo, that's super real. That's real as hell.
All right. Speaking of laughter, it's time for us to hear from Max the Axe. So let's see what Max the Axe delivered this time. All right.
Shout out Max the Axe.
All right, here we go. Why did the alternate universe Spider-Man pass his driving test?
Why?
Because he's an excellent parallel parker.
That's actually a crazy bar. That's actually great.
For those of you out there who didn't like the joke, I just want to say that Jay's alternate universe approves this joke and it lands perfectly in that universe every time.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a really good one.
All right. Do you have an interesting book that you're reading at the moment or that you've read recently?
So I've been ping-ponging back between two books. One is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and then the other is Slaughterhouse-Five.
Oh.
Toni Morrison, I've been kind of like I seen a quote by her it was basically talking about like during times of like a time of like where we're living in right now, where like things seem sort of like pretty bleak, and like as an artist, your duty is to still create. Like there are people. She talks about how people she knows who were like in prison, people who were runaways, and like they still made an effort to like create their art because like that's all you have at the end of the day. Like as a creative, like you still need to have like that mirror up to reality and sort of like challenge society in some capacity. So it's your duty to continue to create.
Yeah, that's really nice. All right, we're nearing the end to this podcast. I have one last question. If you could give anyone one piece of advice, one alt code, one thing that could help them, what would that alternate code be?
That alternate code would be 100% be the wave. And when I say be the wave, it's just be who you need to be. Don't think about trying to concede to where the wave is going. You can go the other way. You can, because you doing that, you never know where you can breed. If you become the wave, you can be the first wave that other people follow, or you can become part of this thing that like people want to join into your wave, and you can create this giant tide that becomes like this sort of, larger than life sort of thing. So I think my alt code would just be the wave.
That's great. All right. Hey, listen, we've come to the end. My voice is slowly cracking and crumbling, but we did it. We did it. Appreciate your time, Jay.
Thank you for having me. I really had a great time. This is my first time doing something like this, and like I was nervous.
Oh, it's great.
I was nervous at first, but you made it. It was great. Like I had an amazing time. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's always fun just to sit down and have a chat,
right.
And anyway, you did great. I appreciate you, and I hope to see great things to continue.
Thank
out
you.
of your art.
Thank you, bro. Likewise, real talk. Thank you so much.
Be good, my man.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy it. Thank you so much.
All right. Jay is gone, but I'm still here, and that means one thing. We have reached the beginning of the end, and I have a story to tell. This story is from 1863, and it starts at the Paris Salon. They were the art show in town, and they were also the gatekeepers of the art world. And that year they rejected 3,000 paintings from the show. And that pissed off a lot of people. I mean, they rejected the likes of Manet, Cezanne, and Pissarro, not to mention many others. And people, mainly the artists, felt like the establishment was too conservative and they weren't progressing art. And so they said, screw this, we're going to make our own exhibition and we're going to take an alternate path and find an alternate way to get our work seen. And they did that. However, the art establishment was strong and powerful and they were going to put a kibosh on that whole thing. But one person stepped in, and that person was Emperor Napoleon III. I think he was the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte. Anyway, he made it happen. So thank you, Napoleon. The show went on. It was called the Salon des Refusés, which translates into the exhibition of rejects. And their goal was to show the rejected work. And it's interesting, that show went on at the same time as the Paris Salon show. And the exhibition of rejects got a lot more foot traffic. And it's not because it was a success or a hit or people liked the work. It was actually quite the opposite. Everyone wanted to go and poo-poo the work and laugh at the work and see what bad art was. And that's why they got the traffic. But they had a show and they had a lot of people looking at it. And even though the critics panned the show to no end, the critics talked about the show a lot. And we know any press is good press. And so the show in the end gave birth to modern art. It was out there. It was being looked at. It also gave birth to Impressionism. The people in that show paved the way for the Monets and the Renoirs of the world. In that show was Manet and Cezanne. There was great work, and it opened up the door to modern art. So thank you to those who walked that alternate path and believed in something and made it happen. Because without it, who knows what the art world would look like today. All right. It's been fantastic podcasting with you today. Until we see each other again on an alternative path, make sure you try walking with 2 left feet and talking with marshmallows in your mouth. All right. Now, I don't have any marshmallows, but what I do have are some cherry tomatoes. So let's see what it feels like to talk with cherry tomatoes in my mouth. This is 1. This is 2. I'll put them to the side. I can talk pretty good. This is 3. All right, 3. Now I'm talking with 4. Okay, 4. Oh, 5. Uh-oh. Getting pretty full. This is 5. Oh, okay. 6. Hold on. 6 cherry tomatoes in my mouth. This is Art Nomad. See you later. Bye.